Hi, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology. And today I am joined by my friends Loka and Vidarbha, two of my favorite people and a few of my mentors in the Bhakti Yoga tradition. And we're going to talk a little bit about Bhakti Yoga and also an upcoming class that they're offering, which I am very pleased to recommend to all of you who follow my channel and who like my work in astrology and yoga. They have a class coming up on Bhakti Yoga and the Bhagavad Gita. We actually did this class last year, and a good amount of you, I think maybe a couple hundred people from my YouTube channel went and took the class and really enjoyed it. They're doing it again this year, so I'm really happy to have them here, tell you about the course, and talk a little bit about Bhakti Yoga. So Loka and Vidarbha, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Acyuta. Thank you.
It's always such a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten nothing but rave reviews from a large number of my students in my audience who took your class last year. Really excited to promote the class again. In the past year, I've worked with Loka and Vidarbha to help develop their website, and we've had a small team of us who really love and support their work, helping build the infrastructure of their class, their online program. So I think it's safe to say, wouldn't you too, that the program is just better than ever too this year.
Definitely. I think we can. Yeah,
you're modest. You're not going to say it's great, but it is great. And we've had a whole team of people working to support and build this program. It's really, really exciting. So
grateful.
So grateful to all of them, Kat and Turtle
and yourself and Delia, everyone, you know,
Barbara,
we couldn't have done it without all of your support. And we're really excited because it almost feels like we're relaunching, you know, but you know, it's improved and it's better, hopefully.
You know, it's sometimes, I mean, myself having a number of people who have helped me develop my programs, it's like when you love to teach, you know, it's helpful to have other people come in and help develop the offering, whether it's getting it ready on an online platform. There's so many new features for the program that are going to make it even that much better and more user accessible and stuff like that. So we're really excited about this program. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Let's just start by talking to people about Bhakti Yoga. You know, a lot of people hear me talk about Bhakti Yoga every day. I sort of have a way of weaving it into my astrology content. So people know that's my jam. But let's just briefly define Bhakti Yoga. If someone's brand new, they've never heard that word or phrase before, they maybe have heard of yoga, but what is Bhakti Yoga in particular?
So Bhakti Yoga, as you just said, you know, has the word yoga in it, and yoga is a very popular word, which, you know, in Sanskrit means to link up or to connect. And the ancient wisdom texts talk about many different ways of connecting. So one could connect through the medium of the mind or the intelligence. One could connect through the medium of one's work. And Bhakti Yoga is really the culmination. Of course, a very popular form of yoga that we're all familiar with is the asanas, or the, you know, the studio yoga, right? And, you know, and so Bhakti Yoga is really the culmination of all of these yoga systems, where it integrates the body and the mind and the heart. And it acknowledges the fact that, you know, the real deal is really the heart, where everything happens. It drives the mind, it drives the body. And so, you know, it's one could say it's a yoga of gratitude, it's a yoga of love, it's a yoga of devotion. So Bhakti means gratitude, means devotion.
Yeah, in our day-to-day life also, we find that the best way to connect with somebody or connect with anything is through our heart and through love. That's the connection that lasts the longest. And Bhakti Yoga to me is connecting with the divine, connecting with everybody, by evoking our natural emotional spiritual love and gratitude, and that really gives the quickest amount of satisfaction and progress in our spiritual journey.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, you know, how it acknowledges the fact that we have an innate need to love and to serve. And Bhakti Yoga allows us a way to repose and express that that need for love and service in the deepest and the highest expression of it, with the Supreme Divine.
You know, that when I hear that, it sounds so good to me. The yoga of love and gratitude, loving other divine beings, moving into the heart. When I think about yoga, or when when I didn't know much about bhakti and I would think about yoga, I would mostly think about learning to control the mind through meditation. And I would think about asana practice, learning to sort of control the body and move through these postures mindfully and things like that. Bhakti yoga has a different set of practices. It's not at all that you couldn't still go to a yoga studio or meditate or anything like that. But bhakti yoga has practices that are specific to the goals of bhakti, of cultivating this loving connection with the divine, within ourselves, within others. What are some of the primary practices of bhakti yoga that sort of set it apart, or what are the unique practices that bhakti yogis are doing every day?
It's a very good question. Yeah, bhakti yoga is all about refining and honing in our consciousness, and some of the key practices that really enliven us is one is the mantra meditation, using the sound. The bhakti yoga, the central theme of bhakti yoga is using the power of sound, and the mantra meditation is a very powerful technique that we find where we chant mantras and names of the divine, which immediately allows us to connect in a much deeper way. So the practice and the goal kind of they merge together in that practice, and also studying the wisdom text, discussing the wisdom text. They are all like different manifestation of this practice based on sound. So we connect with each other, we connect with the divine through this medium of sound by mantra meditation, by studying and discussing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I was just thinking that in another way to say what bhakti yoga is really the yoga of sound. And so like you were saying, that all the practices sort of centers around this connection with sound. So whether it's in the form of mantra meditation, or it's in the form of reading, discussing, contemplating the ancient wisdom text, coming together, bhakti, a key practice of bhakti yoga is really the sense of coming together, this gathering and hearing from each other and reflecting and sharing with each other. That's a very core, it's actually the place from which all the other practices actually come about. So that's why we love to create these virtual communities where we can do that. And you just mentioned something about controlling the mind. So when the heart is invested, then the mind automatically acquires this sort of this happiness or this pleasure that it's looking for. And so the mind is automatically pacified, and one doesn't have to necessarily make a separate endeavor to control the mind, but it just sort of built into the practices of bhakti, because the mind just receives the pleasure it's been looking for.
And another thing that bhakti yogis do is kind of create a sacred space in their home or wherever they are, even at workplace, and then using that space to kind of hone in our consciousness every day. So I find it very easy to connect with the divine through the simple practices of bhakti yoga, which are fun and easy for anybody to practice.
Right. Yeah, I was amazed by how much more naturally I took to mantra meditation and the practices of bhakti. I mean, at the time that I came into bhakti yoga, I was a yoga studio owner and had been teaching yoga and practicing asana and meditation daily and so forth for a while. And I wouldn't say that it wasn't working for me, but when I started chanting, I found that it was a little bit more, if I had to make a comparison, it was a little bit more like playing my guitar, where when I would sit down with my guitar and I would really get absorbed in singing and playing and the rhythm and the sound, the goal of meditation, in a sense, that coming to the center place would instantly happen because I would get into the zone, with the music, with the sound. And I found that mantra meditation, I still do today. I mean, it's still a practice, it's like picking up your guitar. Some days you get into the zone and some days it's just practice and you're trying to get in the zone, but it's hard. But a lot of the time, that's what I would find, is that it was comparable to playing music or entering into some kind of creative flow state. And what I really love that you guys said that also captured my heart so much is the fact that there is, when you come together with other people to do bhakti, when you're singing, kirtan is it's like mantra meditation, but collectively you're singing mantras with drums and kartals, and there's rhythm and people dance, and it's very ecstatic. It reminds me a little when I was younger, I grew up in the Christian church, we'd have praise and worship. And the
Mm.
more I reflect on it, the more I realize those were meditative states of worshiping God. And
Yeah.
the same kind of meditative, prayerful state can be entered into through song and in congregation with other people. And then the mantra meditation, the singing, and then also, as you guys were mentioning, getting together with people in community and reading these ancient wisdom texts that are also in mantra form. You know, and you're reading them, sometimes learning to chant them in Sanskrit, very, you know, simple stuff for beginners, right? But even if you're not, you're just reading them and then talking about them and sharing your realizations. And that even not just like tangentially, but primarily that kind of reading these sacred passages, many of which are very poetic and beautiful, and then talking about them is actually one of the practices of bhakti. That blew me away, that just to get together with people and talk about beautiful divine topics is considered part of the practice of bhakti.
It's very easy and sublime. And I was also thinking when you were speaking, I just loved the example of the guitar. And I was just thinking that another thing that really draws me in is that if I were to do anything else, it's like I can do it for 2 hours, right? But bhakti yoga is something. It's a state of being that you carry in every single thing that you do, whether it's washing dishes or it's raising a child or going to work. It's a state of consciousness. And it's it's really it makes our experience of this mundane sort of world that we live in, sometimes routine world, just come alive.
Yeah, it's like being in love, and then when somebody's in love, then everything that they do throughout the day is done in a different consciousness. So bhakti yoga is like that.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I'm thinking right now about the fact that pretty early on, some of my first bhakti teachers were encouraging me to build like just a little altar someplace in my house where I could offer my food, just a place that can participate in this mood of devotion and tenderness and love and tending to Krishna and Radha on the altar or whatever. And those kinds of practices, they also, it's weird, but like I think a lot about my little girls, right, who love to play with their dolls. And they have these little imaginative landscapes, in their room where they create these worlds for the dolls, and they really care and tend for them. And it's easy for me to go, oh, it's just their imagination or whatever. But actually, in a sense, we still need that as adults. And so I think often of our altar room at home and all of the flowers that we put and the way we care for the deities on our altar and stuff like that. Not that people necessarily have to start with all of this kind of stuff, but these are all options for how bhakti can be practiced. And I think about, I'm in a sense, I'm entering into this playful, tender, caring relationship with God through my altar room, in the same way my daughters are with their dolls. It's really sweet.
That's very, very
That's
sweet.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And in that sense, we are like children, right? When we are
Yeah.
discovering ourselves, we're discovering our relationship with God. It's a new experience every day. And one can start with just 5 minutes a day. That's how we started, just 5 minutes of mantra meditation, and then that just blossomed into more and more things that we love to do.
I have a question that's going off the trail a little bit from what we've been talking about, but I think it's important. People on my YouTube channel will hear me introduce myself. Hi, I'm acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and that's the name I received in formal initiation. And of course, you don't have to be formally initiated to practice bhakti or anything like that. But sometimes people will ask me, do you have to adopt like an Indian cultural lifestyle? And also, do you need, I mean, I don't think as many people ask, do you need to be Indian to practice bhakti? Because they see me and they're like, well, he's not Indian and he's practicing. But what I've found in this community of, in both in India and in the United States, in temple communities and living rooms and online sessions, is that really anyone and everyone is welcome. And that bhakti, in a sense, transcends cultural trappings. But maybe you guys could speak to that a little bit, especially since you're Indian and you yourselves welcome people of all walks of life into your home for this study.
That's such a, such a nice, I'm so happy you asked, because it was a question that was actually asked of us when we used to do the Bhakti Lounge in Baltimore. And it may seem as such, but actually Bhakti, like you said, transcends all forms of designations or labels that we may have. And in fact, Bhakti cannot be practiced with those labels. The very, basic fundamental starting point is that, these are all external designations, and Bhakti sort of takes us beyond that and situates us into our real essential identity, which is common to all of us.
And those labels actually act as kind of obstacles in our connecting with divine. So when I started practicing Bhakti, for me, I guess the most enriching experience was that when I saw the Bhakti in people from all different cultural and social backgrounds, and it was as if I was rediscovering myself, and it was a very and it is a very powerful experience. And to practice Bhakti amongst people of coming from all different backgrounds is actually provides a true meaning to Bhakti, that anybody can connect with the divine, no matter who they are.
And you see the common thread. I think the one example that I always loved was about gold, that gold is present all over the world. And a person, so for us, the study of Bhakti Yoga is really the study of what is pure gold. And so if a person knows what is a chemical property of gold and what does it mean to get pure gold, then one can go to any part of the world and one can actually find what is pure gold. And so the process of learning about Bhakti is really about learning, oh, this is what pure love looks like. And then one can go into any tradition, whether it's Christianity or it's Islam or it's it's whatever, and then just be able to find, because in every tradition there are streams, and so there's also the stream of pure bhakti in every particular tradition. So there is absolutely no bar. And another way to look at it is just, yes, perhaps just like the sun may rise in the east, but the sun doesn't belong to the east. It's actually meant for the whole world. So same way, this knowledge has its origin in India, but it's surely not meant for just a small group of people in India. It's actually meant for the welfare of everyone.
Yeah, the wisdom texts, they never talk about any India or Hinduism or any particular philosophy like that. Like the Bhagavad Gita, for example, just talks about every living entity. It talks about us being spiritual beings and yearning to be connected to the divine. So it's nothing to do with.
And our teacher, Prabhupada, when he went to the West, the essential practices of bhakti are really beyond any cultural trappings. And Chaitanya, who came 500 years ago, he speaks about how there are no rules or no hard and fast rules, actually. So all of these are things that different cultures will express themselves differently, but at the end of it, the core practices, the core essence of bhakti remains the same, which is connection with this transcendental spiritual sound vibration.
We are here in Mayapur, which is like the spiritual, in a sense, spiritual capital of Bhakti Yoga. We meet devotees from all over the world, from Russia, Serbia, Croatia, China, you name it. And we see them practicing Bhakti Yoga with so much interest and focus. It's really enlivening to see that how I've never seen any practice where people from all different countries, walks of life can take to it so naturally.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I've never felt so invited and warmly welcomed, and that it was really that I was encouraged. Like you said, the sun rises in the east. This tradition came from India, but at the same time, it doesn't belong. It's to one culture, and it belongs to everyone. It's given freely to everyone. That was such an empowering message. And also, I think one of the things that, well, I can only speak for myself and things that I've seen among students in the yoga studio and astrology classrooms, is that sometimes this universality, this sense that, well, God has innumerable names and forms and the divine presents itself to us in so many different ways. Sometimes people will think, well, because there's so many ways, it gives me a freedom to not have to commit to anything. And I think that was the thing, that was the place where I found myself anyway, because I had grown up in the Christian church and felt a little stifled by having to belong to just one thing. And as I've gotten older in the Bhakti tradition, what I love is it's universal, but it also really encourages us to take to some practices and commit ourselves to a process. We can test it out for ourselves. We can feel and see what it's like to commit to mantra meditation for a while in our lives, see the actual results. But I think at the core of, the Bhakti tradition, and I think many wisdom traditions will say the same thing, is that at some point, if you find that essence, then you kind of have to sell out and give your heart and soul to something at some point. Give your heart and soul to a practice. Go deep with it. Create community. Dive in. And maybe you don't stay. Maybe you move on. But it's hard to get the benefits of any great wisdom tradition without deeply immersing ourselves in it for a period of time. What I love about what you guys are doing with this class, which we're going to talk about next, is you're offering people that. You don't have to go join a temple. You don't have to take initiation. You don't have to go to India, necessarily any huge commitments, but you can take a class that helps you concentrate very deeply on what bhakti is, how to bring it into your life. You can practice in community with people in terms of talking and learning about bhakti, learning how to chant and so forth. And you can try it on and see what it feels like to have a little bhakti in your life, in a deeply immersive experience. And in my opinion, with two of the gentlest, sweetest, most knowledgeable people that I've ever met. So at any rate, let's talk about that next. And I want to know why the Gita? Why is this such an important text? And what leads you guys to teach classes on the Gita?
I'll share my own life experience. I was like 25, 30 years ago, I was kind of very lost and trying to find meaning in life, although I was achieving everything in my material life. But I was searching for deeper questions to answers and trying to, although I grew up in India, in the Indian cultural tradition, and I was exposed to some elements of the Vedic life growing up, but it was not presented to me. I just saw like blind rituals and things like that, and it never satisfied me. And when I saw so much was going on in the name of religion, people taking advantage of each other, I kind of lost my trust and faith in anything spiritual, and I kind of became more like an agnostic, atheistic. But I was looking for answers through science and philosophy and physics and biology and cosmology, and I spent so many years looking to thread the questions that I had and trying to find answers. And many years later, 25 years, 26 years ago, I just came across the Bhagavad Gita. Both of us came across the Bhagavad Gita. And just by reading the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita really gave me a deep connection that, yeah, this text presents answers to my deepest questions I had. And first time in my life, I started feeling, okay, maybe I can dive into this form of spirituality or practice. For me, it was not a spirituality. For me, it was finding answers to my questions. And that really mattered to me too. Where do I come from? What is this cosmos? What is this universe? Where does life come from? So Bhagavad Gita kind of answered all those deep questions for me. And therefore, it really drew me in. And since then, I'm trying to learn it more and more and share it with others.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. I was just thinking that we all, it's very interesting that the Bhagavad Gita is actually spoken on a battlefield. And something that's always kept, surprised me, continues to surprise me. And it's because our lives sometimes are also, it feels like that we're constantly being tossed around in difficult situations which require us to really think again. And so the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is actually called the Yoga of Lamentation, where, we are dealing with difficult emotions, difficult life experiences. What do we do with them? And the Bhagavad Gita is actually, first of all, it's sort of the summary of all of the ancient Vedic knowledge. So in that sense, it stands on its own, as far as it's a classic that, people have read over the years. But for me personally, the fact that, we have all these, difficult situations in life, and how do we transform them and connect them and make them into a form of yoga is actually Arjuna's journey from that place of complete confusion to a place of empowerment. And Bhakti Yoga, of course, the Bhagavad Gita also talks about all the other yoga systems. But for the practice of Bhakti, it really allows us to connect with this, by the way, the word Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of God, the song of the divine. So we're connecting directly with this very beautiful song that is directly sung by the Supreme Divine and allows us to enter into the heart. If there is a source of all of us, then what's in that heart? And what does that source really seek, and what is that relationship that we can perhaps have with that source? And so Bhagavad Gita sort of brings us into that realm.
Yeah, it does. It's like, as you're saying, a love call from the divine. And those 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita are you can see that Krishna's, who's the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. And the other thing I really liked about the Bhagavad Gita is the question and answer format of it. It's like continuously Arjuna is asking deeper and deeper questions to Krishna. And that allows for a common person like me to say, yes, I can ask questions and I can get answers.
Or at least discuss about it, right?
There's
so much of like that whole dialogue is so friendly, and it's it's really nice. I mean, we've been studying it, and it just seems to go. And that's the other part about these living texts, that you never just read them once. You read them over and over and over again, and they take you to deeper and deeper places. So.
But I guess in summary, Bhagavad Gita kind of provides a summary or the essence of all the wisdom texts coming from the Vedic tradition. And every single concept is accommodated in those 700 verses. So that was really fascinating for me.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I read the Bhagavad Gita, I was in graduate school, and both people in my audience know that, I had a number of very formative experiences with South American shamanism, and started getting into yoga because of them. And one of the first texts that I read was the Bhagavad Gita. And when I read it, it was, growing up a Christian, of course, especially the New Testament, the letters of Paul the Apostle, the Gospels, these were revered texts. And I grew up with a pretty good appreciation for them. I was taught those texts from people who I consider universal in their thinking, very open-minded, seeking the essence, not dogmatic teachers. I had some pretty good teachers, and I'm always been grateful for that. But I had so many questions that were so deeply metaphysical and philosophical. Where do we come from? Why are we here? And while the core teachings of Jesus, I find completely in line with Bhakti Yoga in terms of love God, love each other. That's the essence, right? But what I love about the Gita is that it's like getting to eavesdrop on a conversation between God and like a student, like a curious student who's like, wait a sec, I've got tons of questions, and I want to understand, what is reality? Who am I? Who's the soul? Who are you? I always had the question when I was a kid, why does God need us to worship him? Why does God need that? I remember the first time I read the Gita, that idea that God needs us to worship, but rather that God desires a loving connection, like friends, like Arjuna and Krishna are these tight friends, and that was being expressed. That changed my paradigm so quickly and answered a question that I've been asking in Sunday school since I was a little kid. And there's so many other examples that I could give, but the Bhagavad Gita to me was this revelation of basically like getting to sit like a fly on the wall and just being in the room with this great soul who has these epic existential questions and is getting to talk to an avatar of God. And here Krishna's come in this form to speak. And so at any rate, I'll stop jabbering on, but I feel like for people who are thinking about taking this course that Loka and Vidarbha offer, which is a class on the Bhagavad Gita, deeply immersive experience, conversational, lots of rooms for Q&A, intimate learning experience. There's two reasons that I think it's a really good text to study for me personally. One is, again, just I've never read a text that covers so much ground and so many questions that I feel like I've always had that question, and there it is. And then not only that, but then it's being addressed in this completely beautiful way. But then also getting to talk about it, getting to ask questions about it. When I studied the Gita, formally later in life, starting in 2017, when I really started getting into Bhakti Yoga, I had the opportunity to sit and study it with a teacher who was on staff at our yoga studio. And when I sat with him and just dialogued and asked questions and let things unfold with the Gita as our reference point, it was just so healing, so transformative, so magical. And to have caring teachers who are, in a sense, I know I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's like part of the reason why people keep reading the Gita and keep having conversations and teaching classes about it is because every time you have these conversations, you are relearning all of the same questions and answers all over again. And there's just nothing quite as satisfying, right?
Yeah.
That is true, I guess. And then that is the best part of bhakti that keeps us going is um, to discover bhakti in others, and their bhakti illuminate your bhakti.
Mm-hmm. And yes, every time we read it, it just takes you. It's based on what our consciousness is, where we are at. When we approach these, then they speak to us, and then our consciousness evolves, and then it speaks to us even more. It just amazes. It continues to grow. So yeah, that is very, very nicely expressed, Prabhu.
What are some of the things that you guys do in your classes so that people could get a sense of like, hey, if I want to take this immersive dive into Bhakti Yoga and the Bhagavad Gita in particular, what is a class like? What's the program like?
So we've actually what we have done is we've taken the Bhagavad Gita, and there are some natural topics that come out in this book. So we have divided the Bhagavad Gita into 12 topics. And so each week we'll go through one topic, and there's a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to share where we've tried to again bring the old and the new. So the Bhagavad Gita is a very ancient text, but we also want to show the connections with our current contemporary world through science and philosophy and psychology
and research,
and see how it all seems to tie together, and that's what makes it universal. And so we'll do that, and then we'll have our Q&A, which is built into each of the session. We really encourage discussions and people asking questions. No question is off limits, whatever. And I guess the third thing is to create a safe space for people where we can just express ourselves and our life journeys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it will be offered through Zoom, and an hour and a half session where we'll tackle some of the most important concepts in the Bhagavad Gita, especially how it applies to me. I'm struggling with stress, I'm struggling with anxiety, I'm struggling with grief, I'm struggling with how to deal with some difficult people in my life. What is the purpose of how do I make decisions, effective decisions in my life? So those are the things that are common things that we are struggling with. And the way we have designed the course is, although we are going through these different modules, but we try to tackle these important personal questions that we're dealing with.
And then based on the need, we will also offer a separate Q&A session where
maybe every other week, or we can decide that.
We can decide that, and then where people can come in and we can help them. And the third thing is that for those who want to learn mantra meditation, that option will also be made available to them, which will be optional. So there are variety of things that people can get through the course.
So we'll also read some of the original texts in the Bhagavad Gita, and there will be also optional reading assignments or quizzes that if you want to go deeper and enrich your own understanding, so those will be made available. So part of it will be live sessions, and then we'll also have the remaining the recordings and the readings and all those videos. Everything will be made available to you
on Circulus, all right?
Yeah, so we are creating a community where when you join the class, then you also become part of this community, online community, where we can interact with each other, ask questions, and get access to all the resources that will be part of this course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, and I just had the website up there, and I'll bring it back in a second. Having had a lot of students and YouTube audience members take your course, I've gotten nothing but good feedback. One of the things that a lot of people will ask, surely, is what if I can't make the Zoom meetings live? We'll talk about when they're held and everything like that. But if someone can't make the live meeting, the sessions are recorded and kept on a website so that you can follow up with the PowerPoints and the class material, and the recordings, if you can't make it live, are all there. And the other really great benefit about the program is the ability to optionally learn mantra meditation and follow up with some programs outside of class that are free and part of your program, but optional if you want to take up the practice of mantra meditation, in addition to learning about Bhakti Yoga through study of the Gita.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
And I think we're really excited about this virtual gathering space where I think we can really get to know each other, build this, sense of community, ask questions. There'll be other moderators as well, answer questions.
So the learning continues even outside the live classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the classes start on March 15th this year. They run through May 31st. There are 12 classes total, plus the optional mantra meditation sessions you can join. They happen on Tuesday evenings from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time in the USA, which is going to be 7 p.m. Central here where I'm at in Minnesota, and it's going to be 5 p.m. Pacific. So that should allow quite a few people to attend. Now there's an early bird payment you can make if people want to do that. If for some reason people are on a fixed income, disability, retirement, they're a single mom, whatever the case may be, if you're really struggling, you want to take a course like this, Loka and Vidarbha are of the exact same mindset I am when it comes to studying spiritual topics. Nobody should be priced out, which means if you need any assistance for whatever you have going on in your life where this price point is not affordable, reach out through this. You'll see it right here. When you're looking at the page, tuition assistance right there. So if for some reason that is you, don't feel bad at all, just apply for that. And Loka and Vidarbha, you guys are happy to work with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, our goal is to make the Bhagavad Gita available to everybody, regardless of how much they can afford to pay. So
Yeah, thank you for that. I know everyone will really, there's a lot of people who appreciate that. And I think that's probably something that's widely shared across the Bhakti Yoga communities in general. In New York City at the Bhakti Center, a lot of events are by donation. If you can't pay, it's not, ultimately, it's about making sure that this wisdom is accessible for people. And also, it's important, though, that we also we support our teachers if we can. So if people can pay, we ask that they do, and support Loka and Vidarbha and their work. They are in Mayapur in India, so they're joining from across the world in these Zoom sessions. And eventually, our hope is to bring groups of people who have been studying more seriously together. Ashley and myself, Loka and Vidarbha, are interested in eventually hosting some retreats in India. So that's kind of a dream on the horizon at the moment, but we hope to do that someday with those of you who get really interested in this.
Yeah, absolutely. This Bhagavad Gita course, and this is just a beginning to become part of a lifelong community.
Yeah, and this is the first sort of stage of unfolding your work. You also have taught classes on the Bhagavatam, another sacred text in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, mantra meditation classes. I have myself attended many events in your home, including my own initiation with my guru, which came in 2019, right at the very end. And, I just never felt such a welcoming presence. So, if I had to explain it to people who hadn't gone before, I would say, like, the reason that Loka and Vidarbha are here on my channel is because they literally invited me and many others, including my own family, into their home, and shared Bhakti Yoga and really good food and community and music. And that's what they're all about.
Yeah, we miss that.
I guess the good food and music is a very integral part of Bhakti Yoga.
And so when we have our retreats, we can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, a big part of Bhakti Yoga, and it's a great tradition of India in general, is to offer food to God. And then after God has received that food, we eat the remnants, and that's called prasadam. And that the magic of Indian cooking, along with the sacred nature of the offering, make it just absolutely fantastic. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it can be
Krishna
done
says
with. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying, just saying that you can offer anything regardless of where you
Yeah,
come from.
right.
Yeah, and it's really nice. Yeah, you were going to say something, Achyuta. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we offer our spaghetti sometimes too. So,
Yes,
it's like,
totally. Yeah, I just love pizza. So
yeah. My
it's
wife's Italian.
appreciated.
My wife's Italian. So there's a lot of different cuisine that we offer to Krishna. And we're not very good Indian cuisine cooks ourselves, but man, I mean, just the fact that bhakti is so much about engaging the senses too, like dancing, singing, community, chanting, music, food, colors, incense, flowers. So much of it has to do with taking these senses that are a part of our body and really trying to spiritualize them, bring them into this kind of devotional union with the divine.
And yeah, nothing gets left out, right? Whether it's the act of raising a child, or it's going to work, or it's cooking, or it's, everything gets integrated into this beautiful consciousness of bhakti. So, and you can express yourself. That's another thing that I really absolutely love, is how Prabhupada says that whatever we are, whoever we are, if you're an artist or if you're a singer or a musician, everything can be actually engaged, so that way one doesn't have to just sort of feel like I have to give this up in order to do this. It's not mutually exclusive that way.
Right.
I guess the things that really attracted me to bhakti was there was no compartmentalization of my life, that okay, this is my material life and this is my spiritual life. I work as a software engineer, and for me, a big chunk of my day was devoted to my work. But I never felt that my work was my work. I always felt that there was no difference between my work and my spiritual life. My work was also a part of my spiritual life. So Bhakti Yoga allowed me to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It brings so many things together meaningfully. It's like a harmonizer. Well, I want to also point people. So bhaktiwise.com is the name of the website. If you'd like to sign up, please visit BhaktiWise, go to the Study With Us page. If you have any questions, you can use the Contact Us button, and you can learn more about Loka and Vidarbha. If you click on About Us, you'll learn more about their story, which is also really interesting. And you can click on the Enroll Now button. It'll take you to enroll, and the price and details are all at the very bottom of the page. You can read some reviews that people have left, a lot of whom met Loka and Vidarbha through last year when we talked about this course on my channel, and a good number of people came through that and are still hanging out with you guys. So, so at any rate, also, if you want to follow Loka and Vidarbha and their work on Instagram, Bhakti_poems. Vidarbha is just starting to publish her Bhakti poetry on this Instagram page, and also Bhakti Poems on Facebook. And so both of those pages will allow you to connect with the latest news and activities and the latest writing as well. So if you have any questions about this, again, go to bhaktiwise.com. You can use the contact form if you need to. Otherwise, you can just go to Study With Us and sign up. The class, again, begins on March 15th, goes to May 31st. It meets on Tuesday evenings. You can learn all about the lineup of classes: karma, free will, and destiny, knowledge, faith, and doubt, who is God, matter, and spirit. So many really good classes. And so I highly encourage you guys to check it all out. You can check them out on Facebook or Instagram as well. And I'd love for Vidarbha, you shared a poem with me recently, and we had thought about maybe having you read it before we close here. Would you mind reading it for us? I just think it's a lovely poem.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this, Chuta. So this is a poem. It's an invitation to each one of you. So it starts: Come ye, come all, to the cavern of our heart, where hurry hides. We will leave behind a realm that holds us in fright, and go where every word is a song and every step a dance of delight. A car of gains won't take us there, nor our works. A road of tears we will build with our beloved's name on our lips.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for both of you for being here and sharing a little bit about Bhakti. And my enthusiasm for you guys, for your work for this class is I couldn't say, I couldn't say more about how fantastic this program is and how much I think all of you who enjoy my channel will enjoy two of my teachers and their program. So check it out. And Loka and Vidarbha are going to be back between now and the start of the program. We're going to do some Q&A sessions as well. So if you have any questions about Bhakti Yoga and you want to start the conversation now and get a feel for what Loka and Vidarbha are like as teachers and how this conversation about Bhakti might feel, send us your questions at info@nightlightastrology.com. Put Bhakti Q&A in the subject line. And we'll probably be back probably 2 more times between now and the start of the program in March to record some spontaneous teaching sessions with Loka and Vidarbha. I'm just going to be the person asking those interview questions based on what we receive. So that should be a lot of fun. So please send us your questions, and we look forward to seeing all of you again soon. And Loka and Vidarbha, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much, Acyuta.
Thank you, Acyuta. I just wanted to mention one point, that this course, whoever is exploring it, it will allow you to build a strong foundation of the yoga philosophy, and that will allow you to go deeper into other wisdom texts as well. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. We also wanted to thank you, Acyuta, for your
Thank you so
encouragement
much.
and your support and your enthusiasm. It's we just feel so inspired and so grateful actually to be here.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Loka and Vidarbha. And I hope you all have a great evening, and we will see you again later. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.